So again, welcome to our FinDock release webinar for our November release. Very nice of you to join. Thank you for being here. And my name is Stefan. I'm the product manager at FinDock, and with me joined Lawrence, who and together we are proud to go through our November release webinar. As usual, if this is your first time, what we do here is we go over the FinDock releases content. We highlight relevant features for you, and it also gives you the ability to ask us any questions you might have. We will either answer them directly if that fits in the presentation, or we will stick around afterwards to answer those questions or get back to you. So feel free to use the chat or the Q&A function to ask any of your questions. Before we delve into the content of the release, right? So please be aware that everything we will be talking about is as part of the November release is already available to you in your sandboxes, and it will be pushed to our production environments on November the 14th, Sunday evening. So from Monday the 15th on, you will be able to have this in your production environment. And with this release, we'd like to go over several main highlights of this release and many smaller ones. The main highlights are SEPA Credit Transfer functionality, where we give you the ability to not collect money, but transfer money. Secondly, we want to highlight to you the updates we made and our current position on how to work with both FinDock and the Experience Cloud product from Salesforce. Thirdly, we want to highlight the changes we made around FinDock Giving Pages. And last but not least, we want to show you all the bugs and enhancements we made with this release. But let's start with credit transfer. So SEPA Credit Transfer is a pilot feature, is a feature that's currently in pilot for us. And pilot means that it is new functionality that we are testing and working with a limited group of customers. And then from pilot, later on, it will move to beta, which means it's open to all of our customers, but still in the beta stage. And after the beta stage, there will come a generally available stage where the product is part of the subscription you buy when you use FinDock and fully supported moving forward. Now, currently, SEPA Credit Transfer is in pilot, and we hope to move it to beta in the January release if things go well. Now, with the SEPA Credit Transfer pilot, you are able to, instead of collect money, which you can typically do with many of the processes that we support, you're able to instruct your bank to transfer money out of your bank account into the bank account of somebody else. So let's say, for example, you want to wire transfer money to refund the direct debit, or to refund, or to pay out a claim, or any other kind of money flow. You can use SEPA Credit Transfer to actually do that. And in the scope of this pilot, what we include is we have an updated data model in FinDock around payable installments. So those are installments that you need to pay instead of receive. So now we have receivable and also payable installments. And then secondly, we give you the ability now with our payment schedule to not only to run this process, and then we generate the right file, which in the case of SEPA Credit Transfer is the PAIN001 file. And then when the results are coming back in your bank statement, we will be able to reconcile those automatically based on the data that is in your CAM53 file. What's also nice to highlight here later in the demo we will highlight is that we made updates around, this has all the goodies a regular payment schedule process has, including the data quality rules and some improvements there. And the last thing I'd like to highlight before we do the demo of this functionality is that this will be an add-on pricing feature. So the pricing will still be determined as part of the pilot, but this will be add-on pricing on top of the regular FinDock subscription. Now, Lawrence will demo this functionality to us in detail.
All right, thank you, Stefan. Before I'm going to show you what this looks like in FinDock, I'd first like to briefly go over what I'm going to show you. So this entire process starts with your payment data, which in this case, like Stefan said, are installments with a record type payable and a payment method credit transfer for the payment process payment of SEPA. So this, at this point, only works for the SEPA scheme. And it only works if you have configured your target. Now, this target doesn't have to be a new target in the processing hub. It can be your existing bank account or target where you just enable this SEPA credit transfer feature. And we call this bulk payables. If the data is in your system and you run a payment schedule, similar to a direct debit payment schedule with FinDock and no processor, you just select the right values, like payment method is credit transfer, payment processor payment of SEPA, and then on the processing hub side, we will create a file, like Stefan said, a paint001 file that is posted to Chatter. This file you can take to your bank, and then your bank will transfer this money out of your account. Now again, to reconcile this, we have Chem23 files that you download from the bank, you upload to Chatter, which the processing hub automatically picks up and then reconciles the payment data with. And let's see what that looks like in Salesforce. So let's start from a installment. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new installment with record type payable. On this installment, and this is exactly the same as when you're trying to collect something, we put an amount, we select the contact that you want to transfer money to instead of from. Of course, the currency is euro. And then we set the due date, on what date do you want to transfer this money? And of course, the payment method here is credit transfer. The processor is SEPA, and the target that we want to transfer money from is this one. Now, of course, we need to know which bank account we want to send money to. So we also select the payment profile for this contact, which includes an IBAN bank account, which will receive the money from us. Now, one of the mandatory steps is a bank statement description. Let's just say we're doing a refund for a donation. And then we save this installment. All right, so our installment is set up. Let's set the status to new instead of outstanding. So it will be picked up by the payment schedule. And also you see here on the right-hand side, everything I did is correct. We're validating this just like all the other payment methods, whether all the data is there. There should be a due date, there should be a bank statement description. And we've checked that this is all there, which means that this installment is ready for collection. And then how do we collect? We do this through a payment schedule. And let's create a new one. Again, same source, same payment method, same target. The run date is, of course, today because we want to do this now. And we select the selection date to include the due date, which was around the 18th of November. It doesn't have to be exact, of course, but anything past that date will work. Once the payment schedule is created, of course, we'll need to grab the installment that we just created, and we do this by generating. And up until this point, everything is basically the same as running a direct debit. As you see, we have now attached this installment to the payment schedule, which is exactly what would happen if this wasn't credit transfer. However, what we've done here is there's a new step in this payment schedule path that's called validate, which does the exact same thing as the data quality validation here. But now it's in line. So previously it was only possible to manually do this and then check whether this bar was green. But now this could happen when you automatically run this process with no one looking at this. It will still validate whether all the data is correct and tell you when it's not. So let's start the validation. And I'm kind of sure it's going to be correct because we already tried, right? And the same checks are done here, and it validated the installment that all the data was correct. Now, if, for instance, I had a too long bank statement description, or I was missing a due date, or the due date was in the past, this would have been read, and I would not have been able to continue. Fortunately, everything is correct, and I can start processing, which in this case means creating the pane 001 file, which will be posted to Chatter. Which it should have done now. So let's check. Whether it's already there. Oh, it's still processing. Let's see if I have a Chatter file. It looks like something stuck in my environment, or I ran out of storage. That's also a possibility. Just takes a while. You can, of course, follow this process in the processing of manager as well. There we go. It should be finished now. All right, there it is. So this is a pane 01 file, which is an XML file that your bank will recognize, which basically looks like this. And this includes the payment that we just made, including a second installment. So this is the payment that we made. Now this file you upload to your bank, and if the bank accepts the file, you click File Accepted, and then we will close all the installments and set the installment status to paid, so that Salesforce also knows that the process has been completed. If then later something goes wrong, maybe there weren't enough funds with the on your account, or something else went wrong with the wrong IBAN accounts or something, then this information will come back to the account. And that's about it. That's the entire process.
Super, thanks, Lawrence. So thanks for the demo as well. So very exciting for us, right? Now, if you are already doing outbound payments, but not yet using obviously FinDock for it, but want to consider that, then feel free to reach out to us to understand, can I be part of this pilot? Is this something for me? And please share your use case. We are definitely willing to engage with you and see if we can help each other. What's also very, hopeful for us is this inline validation step, because we're currently doing this now for credit transfer, but this opens the possibility later to also bring this, for example, to your direct debit runs, recurring credit card runs, and other recurring payment processes that you're managing on FinDock. And it gives you the ability to, and for example, you also use our auto collect feature to make sure that the data is still intact and valid before you continue processing during the night. Let's move on to the Experience Cloud. So, as you probably know, we as FinDock, we offer multiple ways for you to connect your front-end websites and donor-facing activities to FinDock and Salesforce. And we do that via our API, or via partner integrations that our partners are offering, and via FinDock Giving Pages. What many people don't know or realize is that when you use FinDock Experience Cloud, which formerly was called Communities, as your front end, you can also still use our API. And and use all the goodies from the FinDock API, but then in a community context, in an Experience Cloud context. Now, Experience Cloud has support for both private and for public pages. And private pages are like logged-in environments where your donor or your customer is able to authenticate, log in, and see their own details in their own environment. And the public pages obviously are public web pages that anybody can visit. Up until now, we only supported the capability to integrate our API with private Experience Cloud pages. But from this release on, you're also able to use our FinDock API in the context of a public Experience Cloud page. And when you do that, our API recognizes this and does we have implemented some backend logic to make sure we are handling that authentication flow a bit differently to make sure that in a compliant way, you can still take payments from public Experience Cloud pages. Now we have a couple of customers who are using us together with Experience Cloud, which is very, very nice because it's part of the same platform. You can use all the goodies from Salesforce like Lightning Flow to make to take in your data and run your processes. And Lawrence here has written 2 excellent guides on how to integrate FinDock together in your Salesforce Experience Cloud environments. So in the chat, there's now posted 2 links to those articles. You can also find them on our blog website. So they are written towards developers and admins who are actually making this integration. But when you do, please feel free, but when you do have Experience Cloud pages, please know that you can use FinDock as part of the Experience Cloud and take payments or donations in line. Now you can do that either both using Lightning Flow, I already mentioned, or obviously creating your own LWC components on top of this. And then in the articles that Lawrence shared, we not only tell you how to do it, but we also link and share example codes from our own repository on how to set this up. Then, thirdly, we want to move on and talk about FinDock Giving Pages. And for everybody who doesn't know what FinDock Giving Pages are, you can see a very nice GIF on the right-hand side. And what it essentially is, it's an easy donation page you can set up in minutes. That gives you a front-end donation page for your customers or donors to make a donation towards you, and it gives you one-time and recurring payments. And the data that's coming out of this page is in real time seamlessly going into FinDock and your Salesforce environment. And it's essentially a website on top of our own payment API. So all the payment methods and payment processors that we offer via our payment API are available to you in FinDock Giving Pages. Now with the November release, we spent a lot of time in ironing out smaller items, small enhancements, bug fixes that you gave to us around Giving Pages. Examples are we now make IBANs, we now accept IBANs with different upper and lower cases, and we standardize on them. We improve the handling of non-SEPA IBANs. We do not show, for example, the impact narrative, which is in this screenshot, the save a panda and giraffe part. When you leave it empty in the configuration, we remove it from the website that is shown to your donors. We made all these tweaks and upgrades, and you can find the details of them in our release notes. And the reason we were doing that is because we are already, for quite a while in the background, working on pages. Obviously, we started way back almost 1.5 years ago with the introduction of our new payment API. And then, well, 10 or 11 months ago, we launched Giving Pages, and we see decent adoption, but we still think that many of our customers can benefit more from these features than they are currently doing. Part of that endeavor to get there was that before the summer with the PayLink release, we improved the payment component, especially the payment method selection, which is now, I would say, rather beautiful. But we are hoping to release in the next release and in the coming releases more functionality to giving pages to make it even more compelling to use our out-of-the-box giving page instead of having to do your own API integration with an external party. Now, what you can expect for us here, and Safe Harbor applies obviously, is next to all these smaller bugs and enhancements we already made in this release, we want to give you several larger new features we are proud of. And among those are the ability to add any of your Salesforce fields to the front end in the payment component. So currently you can only use a subset of fields that many of our customers are asking on the donation forms and that we pre-select for you. But when you, for example, have a custom field for opt-in checkboxes, you're not able to map that as an extra on the giving page right now. But with the any field option, you can upload and ask for any input field on the front end on the giving page that is in your Salesforce backend. And it's not only for fields that you want to ask your donor, but also for hidden fields. So say you want to, for example, know from a certain campaign where it's coming from, you can put a hidden parameter as part of the API call to make sure that you're able to allocate based on channel, for example. And this will get full support with query parameters. So you will be able to pre-build, pre-filled, personalized donation pages using FinDock Giving Pages. And you will be able to highlight relevant amounts for different donor groups, etc. Other things we are working on at the moment is a new template next to the panda and the whale template. We want to add a fur template to the palette for you to choose from. And the much heard feedback item we received is that it's hard to maintain many giving pages with similar configuration. So we want to improve the reusability of config with giving pages. And on top of that, as we did already in the November release, right, we are now gathering all the small bugs and enhancements, feedback items that you shared with us and try to include as many as we possibly can. So if you around giving pages have questions, or you are considering with your project whether or not to use giving pages, or there was a very clear reason why in the past you couldn't use it, please feel free to share that with us. We are very keen to work with you and understand whether or not we can help you in the future make use of this part of FinDock as well. Now, on the bugs and enhancements, there were many in this release, because in the backend we have been working on giving pages for quite a while already. But one of the notable changes we made is that when you use our payment API, you can get webhook notifications notifying you of changes in FinDock that we send to your web apps. Or when you make a get on FinDock, we give you the details of certain installments and donations in the systems. And to that, we added now the FinDock Pay link field. And with that field combined, you are able to externally create a donation in the system and then near real time get the pay link pushed to you that you are able to include in follow-up emails and other customer journeys. In our release notes, you can find many different updates we made across our different packages and parts of the systems. Some notable are that for our Molly customers, you're now able to set the description on the Molly page for any payment method that we support from Molly. We made some quality of life upgrades again for our smart debit customers. And we fixed a couple of bugs and enhancements we received in the last months around our payments API for both one-time direct debits and, for example, the one where you want to create a contact or an account with that data not being present in the original API call. Last, but definitely not least, we also made lots of improvements to our gift aid package. And then they are not only functional or mainly not functional improvements, but in usability. So we updated the layouts, the tooltips. We improved the configuration of gift aid targets well, notably, we hope in the FinDock setup to make it easier for new customers to get up and running with our new gift aid guide and these quality of life changes. As we also shared in the last release webinar, for the next year, so 2022, we are moving away from a monthly release cadence to a bi-monthly release cadence where we want to release every 2 months. And that means it gives us also the ability to lengthen the time we spend in your sandbox to give you the time to get to wrap your head around the release, determine the impact of the release, and potentially update customizations you want to update. And these changes are applied to next year. And for the next release on, so the January release, which will be do early January, that release will stay for 4 weeks in your sandbox before moving into production. And then we won't release in February. No, we will release in March, May, and then every other month, etc. We already planned all these releases ahead, and you can find them on our release schedule article on our docs. And later we will also add them to status.findock.com where you get an access to our change calendar, and you can subscribe to that, so you will be notified if major changes or incidents, disruptions potentially happen. So please feel free to do that. But we are moving to a bit slower rhythm, and one of the core benefits of this, main benefits of this, is that we will be able to spend 4 weeks instead of 2 weeks in your sandbox environments and give you the time to adjust to those changes if you wanted to. Now, everything we have been talking about is part of our release notes in detail. So please, you can find them on our docs website on the link shared here below. If you have questions about it, right, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to explain and to elaborate on certain items that might be of interest to you. And that brings us to the end of this release webinar. Thank you for joining. I hope you will enjoy your weekends. We will stay around to answer the questions that were asked in the chat. But before that, thank you for joining again, and enjoy your weekends.